Today is Friday the 6th of January, and I think it's the first Friday of 2023. Indeed it is. And it's been a week where Richard Tice gave his political layout roadmap plan, then Rishi Sunak, and finally Keir Starmer yesterday. His news was overshadowed by Prince Harry's book leak, so the world didn't pay a lot of attention to Keir Starmer. Indeed, I haven't even bothered listening to what he had to say. I sort of skimmed the details, and basically he's part of the problem, in the same way that Rishi Sunak is part of the problem. Because I took the trouble to access his speech. I did listen to him deliver most of it, not live, but saw it on playback. And looking at it, reading it in front of you, and I did make a recording of it, and it's 38 minutes long, the video recording. I think when he delivered it, it took 22 minutes, something like that. So obviously you can speed it up. But it is it is frightening and depressing. As I say, with Keir Starmer, his is kind of in the same vein, but he predictably, worryingly, wants to give local authorities more power, so more diktats coming down from on high, which diktat is a word mentioned in this Sunak speech. More local government, more power, more rules, regulations, red tape. And the other thing that was mentioned was that he wants to give power back to the unions that Sunak is talking about withdrawing from. With Richard Tice, my concern would be that he wouldn't get anywhere anyway. I don't know. Let's just concentrate on JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs' man, Rothschilds, the bankers of the world. Let's concentrate on their man, Rishi Sunak. So I'm going to read through the speech, see how it goes, and add a few contributions along the way where I think, that's a bit... So he started off, New Year should be a time of optimism and excitement. Yet I know many of you look ahead to 2023 with apprehension. Understatement of the year, right? I want you to know that as your Prime Minister, I'll work night and day to change that, and quickly. Not just by providing relief and peace of mind for the months to come, although we will, but also by changing our country. So there you go, straight away, change. And building a better future. First mention of children and for our children and grandchildren. He mentions future for children and grandchildren at least 4 times. It's a future, apparently. One thing to say, it's always difficult when you're listening to something like this to differentiate between the text and my interjections. Short of impersonating Rishi Sunak, I'll try and make it, an interjection as clear as possible. But change the country and build back and build a better future for our children and grandchildren. A future that restores optimism, hope and pride in Britain. Like the word salad to start with. Let me first address the 2 issues that I know are at the forefront of everyone's minds. Challenges in the A&E. People are understandably anxious when they see ambulances queuing outside hospitals. Of that, you should know we're taking urgent action. How are we going to do that? They're going to increase bed capacity by 7,000. And I'm paraphrasing here from now on actually, more people cared for at home. What does that mean? It means we don't want them at hospital. You can look after them. Provide new funding to discharge, which was a curious adjective in a medical sense, a discharge. Provide new funding to discharge people into social care and the community. So tax money going to get people out of hospitals and into the community, freeing up beds. The NHS are working urgently on further plans. So the NHS are working urgently on further plans, okay, for A&E and ambulances. Then he talks about the strikes. He says there's a lot of information out there. He wants people to clearly understand the government's position. He says, we hugely value public sector workers like nurses. They do incredibly important work. And that's why we want a reasonable dialogue with the unions about what's responsible and fair in our country. Interjection. There's no talk in this speech about any other strikes, any other discontent in the country. The only thing he mentions is the NHS. He goes on, and in the coming days, we'll update you on the government's next steps. So there's an update coming there. Meanwhile, the A&E, the NHS are working urgently, hello mate, on their plans to do something for the future. People don't want politicians, he says, who promise the earth and then fail to deliver. Well, okay. They want government to focus less on politics and more on the things they care about. What? Cost of living, too high. Waiting times in the NHS, too long. Oh. Illegal immigration, far too much. Oh, I've got a cat fight going on. And, well, you see, cats, you could make a video of animals listening to a politician promise to do better and clear up the mess that previous politicians have created. And when you hear Richie Sunak giving this bump, you just think, well, the Tories have picked up the mantle from Tony Blair with David Cameron and the Liberal Conservative Pact. And we had Theresa May after that, and then Boris Johnson, and then this guy, and it's just one fuck up after another. Going back to, John Major, before him, Margaret Thatcher, sold all the council houses and sold all the family silver and presided over the Big Bang. You can say Elvis Costello, was going to dance on her grave and tramp the dirt down. A lot of people hated Thatcher. She was a divisive figure. Poll tax. Everybody in the house pays a tax. Poll tax riots. The Falklands, which took the country to war and won back the Maldives from Argentina. But, I think our biggest, the coal miners' strike, it was like, holy shit. Everywhere you look, there was the 1970s strikes, 3-day week, power cuts, rubbish in the streets. I left school in 1980 when I was 16. So the 70s ended, the 1980s began, and I had my first job at 16. I worked as a trainee manager in a delicatessen. It was a bakery, cooked meats, cheeses, on a market in Pershore, Worcestershire. The market was open 3 days a week, Saturday, Friday and Wednesday. And the rest of the time I would take in orders, take stock, get the place ready for opening, so to speak. I was under the tutelage of a Mr. Talbot. Mr. Talbot would have been about the same age as Norman Wisdom, I suppose. Back in 1980, he was approaching 65. and he was old school. And one of the things that was great about him, getting away from Margaret Thatcher a little bit, but he could add up in his head, and he'd count aloud, and he'd read down a column of numbers: 3, 7, 10, 5, 15, 3, 18, 11, and just add up at the speed I'm talking of a column of numbers. And charismatic, good with the customers, good at his job, a good butcher, good at presentation, smart, could have been in the army. Anyway, that was my first job, and here we are 42 years later, or 43 now, nearly, well, technically, 1980, 2023, and the country's going down the fucking tubes, and France is not far behind, you know. We live in a society with private speed camera cars where you have drivers driving around in, I think the cars are paid for by the government, monitoring infractions of speed limits, and petty bourgeois council officials saying no, you can't do that, and paying lip service to recycling. You go to a petrol station and not only are you robbed because the price of commodities, gas, fuel, heating oil has fallen a lot, so you're robbed because you're still paying a high price. There's also the hypocrisy where they sell dirty diesel at X pounds or euros a litre, and then super clean diesel. You say, why the blue fuck does dirty diesel even exist? Why is that an option? Why, if this government, if our elected people who we elect to take care of the family silver and our heritage, and I don't really want to say the planet because they're grandiose enough, you know, but they purport to take care of the planet, certainly. They say they are going to, in our name. Why do they allow shit diesel to be sold? That's just one of many hypocritical things that we are kind of like presented with on a daily fucking basis. You know, tailgating, it's not a problem. You go 5 miles over the speed limit, points. You just see so many things in life that you say, hang on, that shouldn't be right, that shouldn't be allowed, and that's not right. Anyway, we've had, since Dr. Beeching scrapped the railways in the 1960s, successive governments in England. I'm more of an expert on England, certainly, if I am anything of an expert at all, than France. But I don't like what's happening in France. I don't like what's happening in America. I don't know what's happening in the UK. I don't know where I want to be. I feel like I can't escape any of it. You know, I feel like a political refugee. Obviously, I'm not in dire straits like somebody I'm not in fear of my life. I'm not in fear that the door's going to be kicked in and I'm going to be taken away and disappeared. It's not like that. It's nevertheless a legitimate concern that, I don't know, in 5 years I won't be able to use my car. That's a legitimate concern. Why, in a country like France that has a volcanic region in the middle of the country known as the Massif Central, or the Central Massif in England, why do the French government, why have they never tapped into, quite literally, that as a source of energy to extract heat via a tube that goes down into the ground and comes up with water, or, you know, the liquid that would be in the tube, and then you'd have a heat exchanger. tapped into that resource and used it for energy? And the answer is because they don't give a fuck. There's no money in it. And they pay lip service about getting cars off the road and buying an electric car. The headlong rush into no more internal combustion engines after 2030 is just ridiculous. COVID-19 reactions, ridiculous and scary. And sort of that, it's an ongoing developing situation. Obviously, you know, fallout from it, the newest variant, do you get... America, you need to be up to date to get to the goddamn country, to get into America. You need all the up-to-date JABSs. Can you fucking believe it? So, when you add in the war in the Ukraine and the fact that peace was shunned by, they say the UK and America, really it's America, right? Tells the UK, come on our side, agree with us, we don't want peace. We're not in the war, remember? We don't want peace. COVID, the war, inflation, fuel prices, people going hungry. All right, people with pets like me. I don't earn a lot of money. I earn jack shit. If I lived in America and told somebody, if I went to America, or I tell you, an American listening, how much money I make a month, you'd go, for fuck's sake. You earn what? How much? You make $12,000 a year. I see American YouTuber, you know, they got big trucks, they got this, they're doing DIY, they got the big equipment, they got... People are struggling, like food banks. Again, cognitive dissonance everywhere. You hear about nurses going to food banks. Nurses are doing all right. You know, I mean, public sector workers are doing all right. I am tired of hearing about how they are... Richie Sunak mentions it a few times. We so value our public sector workers. You know, they were paid during furlough. They were given a good pat on the back. They did a great job. But, you know, I mean, that is their job. And to ask for a 20%, 19% pay rise is two fingers to everybody else, basically, who works in the private sector. If you don't like nursing, give up. And the NHS, well, that's just a can of worms that I could spend an hour talking about and pointing out things that I've come across that are just wrong. Like, never mind the diversity and the posts like that, hiring workers through agencies and paying 3 times as much. You know, from the top to the bottom, procurement, trusts, charging nurses to park the car. It's just like, the whole thing is just like a mess. So getting back to listening to this fucking speech, it's just la la land. It's so depressing. So he says, right, people don't want politicians who promise the earth and then fail to deliver. They want government to focus less on politics and more on the things they care about. He says the cost of living's too high, waiting list, NHS too long, illegal immigration too much. I think people do accept many of these challenges are at least in part the legacy of COVID and impacted by the war in Ukraine. That's all your fault. You know, your reaction, the way you changed what the idea of a pandemic situation should be, the plan A, you fucking threw all that out the window. And we've already covered the war, you know, it's not our war. You've made it your war, but we're paying for it. That's not an excuse, he says, but that's not an excuse. We need to address these problems, not just fucking talk about them. Since I became PM, we've made progress. Really? Like what? Hiring Jeremy Hunt? Taking on JP Morgan as your advisors? I mean, I couldn't believe that. Jeremy Hunt at the Dispatch Box said that. Talk about letting the cat out of the bag. I mean, yeah, we all kind of knew. We the Bank of England and the way everything you hear about, well, most of the things you hear about, I don't know, a lot of the things you hear about on the internet about he who controls the supply of money controls, Benjamin Franklin quotations from 200 years. Yeah, it's bloody right. And the people that do control money and the creation of it do control the world. They really do. And the idea that we would vote for Sunak, Starmer, any of these two clowns in the traditional two-clown system is laughable. But, I mean, if I read much more of this, you'll see that he's paid for, with taxpayers' money, 20,000 new police. We'll try and get to that. Since I became PM, we've made progress. Stabilised the economy and people's mortgage rates. Provided 26 billion of support for the cost of living. What? You mean supported energy companies' profits by bunging taxpayers' money at them, you mean? Invested billions more in schools, in teachers' pensions, all right, yeah. The NHS and social care, deepened ties with allies around the world on everything from Ukraine, G7, let's get together and do globalist talk, yeah. Continued our unwavering support for the armed forces and set out a concrete plan to stop the boats and tackle the unfairness of illegal emigration. Of course, we need to do more, he says. So he says he wants to make 5 promises to us today, and they are 5 pledges to deliver peace of mind. Should have a trademark after this little thing. 5 foundations on which to build a better future for our children and grandchildren. Second time. First of the 5, we'll halve inflation this year to ease the cost of living and give people financial security. Well, inflation's gone up X, right? Different across the board, different things have gone up. Your mortgage rate's gone up X. Your bananas have gone up X. Everything's gone up. And when he says he's going to halve inflation, what he means is that the prices won't go down, but they'll stop going up as much. They're not going to go back down to what they were. Second, and give people financial security. He says we're going to halve inflation and give financial security. How the fuck is he going to do that? How is he going to do that? What is that? More rubbish. Second, grow the economy. We'll grow the economy, creating better paid jobs and opportunity right across the country. Third, make sure the national debt is falling. Well, King, good luck with that, because, I mean, the national debt, again, he who controls the money, he's tied to the banks. They had the opportunity to take out, at the worst, some kind of a structured loan over 75 years at a fixed rate to pay for this once in a lifetime, unless Bill Gates gets his way, pandemic event. We had a flu pandemic in 1918. The Spanish flu, so called because all the reporters were on the Spanish Peninsula, because that's where the flu wasn't. That flu possibly started in Texas, was carried to the trenches in France, and spread out from there, back and forth. But because Spain was not involved in the war, and because it's essentially cut off in a peninsula, and at altitude, a place like Madrid, surrounded by mountains, where the reporters were based, reporting on the flu, it became known as the Spanish flu, because that's where they're reporting from, but there was no flu there. Anyway, he's going to make sure the national debt is falling, which is, basically just paying banks interest. So when he says the debt's falling, there's so much debt, I don't know, that's just pie in the sky waffle, right? Really. Make sure that our national debt is falling so that we can secure the future of public services. Well, that's like taxpayers' money paying the interest on debt taken on by the government to secure the future of public services paid for by taxpayers' money. Fourth, NHS waiting lists will fall. People will get the care they need more quickly. Fifth, pass new laws to stop small boats, no mention of medium-sized or larger boats, small boats, making sure that if you come, and then he addresses them in the first person, if you come to this country illegally, you are detained and swiftly removed. So, 5 promises: halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists, and stop the boats. Those are the people's priorities, he was told by his group of advisors who wrote this speech with him. And they are not only the people's priorities, they are your government's priorities. And we will either have achieved them or not. No tricks, no ambiguity. We're either delivering for you or we're not. We will rebuild trust in politics through action or not at all. What is he playing like chicken here with it? So I ask you to judge us on the effort we put in and the results we achieve. These 5 promises are the people's priorities. You said that already. So they're my immediate priorities too. But they're not the limit of my ambitions. My ambitions, my and Klaus Schwab's ambitions for our country, they're just a foundation. They're the foundation. My aim is to build a better future for our children and grandchildren, third mention. A future where they feel optimism, hope and pride. To realise that vision, we need to change our mindset. Okay? So we need to change our mindset. You voters, you British people. You Brits, right? You've been doing it all wrong. You've got to change, right? Now listen. Politicians talk a lot about change, but the truth is, according to me, Rishi Sunak, no government, no Prime Minister can change a country by force of will or diktat alone. In other words, if a few of you agree with me, then I can use a diktat, right? Or I can change a country by force of will, or by force, as long as some people agree with me. Right? On their own, if no one agrees with me, I can't change it by diktat or force. But as long as a few do, I can. And voila, real change isn't provided, it's created. Waffle, right? Gumph. It's created by me and my dream team of creative thinkers. It's not given, it's demanded. Demanded by Klaus Schwab, Tony Blair. It's not granted, but invented. Yeah, Klaus Schwab, Tony Blair, they invent it, yeah. Bill Gates, kind of inventing stuff, right? The choices we make as individuals, as workers, business owners, parents, all add up to something far greater. And if we are honest, I was talking honesty there, it's change, right, also requires sacrifice. Ah, right, okay. So we've got to change and it requires sacrifice. It goes on, and hard work. It's a big risk for a politician to say that, but the stakes are too high and the reward's too great not to level with you. Very familiar language, right? Very dramatic. Stakes are too high and the reward's too... Well, the rewards are, yeah, there are going to be massive rewards in planet-saving green strategies. I mean, today I saw an advert. I happened to be watching the TV in the local bar. An advert came on for a fucking huge cruise ship. Right? This thing must have been as tall as the Eiffel Tower. And I can tell you that these boats are very polluting. They use a dirty, sulphury diesel mix. And they are an environmental mess. But that's fine. You can carry on building those boats, not a problem. But you, with your Volvo estate car, no, that's got to be scrapped. I heard a thing the other day where a Second World War Jeep is as green as the greenest green battery green hybrid green car, because it was built X amount of years ago. It's still going. It consumes nothing, and every day in practice that it is able to carry on its lifespan, it becomes greener. And if you take a load of old Fiestas and a load of old cars, I say old, a car from 2010, and put it in a crusher, that is extremely wasteful. Technology and cleaner like cleaner diesel. Why do we not have cleaner diesel automatically? Because they are just a bunch of CUNTSs that give us crap. Okay? Word salad, gumpy crap, bullshit, talking out the side of their mouths, junk. Alright? And this is why people criticise King Charles, because he's 100% behind all this kind of like, yeah, great reset, great clean up, blah, blah, blah. He's wholeheartedly in it. He's making a fortune from it. He's got his land with windmills on it, being paid the gas price for each generation of electrical units. I also thought it was quite funny the way people criticise Meghan Markle's father for like selling out to the press before the marriage, when all I see is everybody just grabbing money. Right? Prince Harry has made his boy. Yeah, but look at the Windsors anyway. They're just it's all about the money. You know, the Queen, when she was alive, God rest her soul, would veto. To get royal assent, every law has to pass before her desk. Plenty of stuff would be vetoed. The royal estates would be exempt from certain things, like, say, for example, cow farts, right? They'll apply to an ordinary farmer, but they won't apply to the Prince of Wales, as he then was, because they veto it. Why? Money and power. That's why. So I don't want to hear any more bullshit about Meghan Markle's dad when they're all got the fucking noses in the trough. I didn't actually mean to swear there, but... So getting back to this spaghetti soup fucking nonsense by Rishi Sunak, who says the stakes are so high and the reward's too great not to level with you, he says, not to be honest with you. And here we go again. So... change is hard. It takes time, but it is possible. Yeah, you are an idiot and I'm talking to you like one, says Rishi Sunak, right? You fucking idiots, listen to me. Change is hard, it takes time, but it is possible. And we know that because we've done it before, he says. He goes on, during COVID, we protected millions of people's jobs and businesses. A record I'm proud of. And we know it's possible because you can see change happening. You can feel it. Yeah, people are like this desperate feeling of like we're on a fucking the bus is going. It's fallen off the. Well, it's approaching the barrier to go over the cliff, basically. It's a record he's proud of, though. And we know it's possible because you can see change happening. You can feel it. Look at the schools, state schools. He says. Empowered by reform. What? Kids can't add up. What the fuck is he on about? Empowered by reform. You've got parents concerned about what kids are being taught in school, gender questions, parents not allowed to know what their children are being taught. But according to Rishi Sunak, just look at our state schools, empowered by reform, everything's fucking great. In some of the most deprived parts of our country, producing some of the best results. Those teachers and pupils work hard and make sacrifices because they know that what they're doing is bigger than themselves. They demand inspire and deliver excellence. And their ethos of excellence can become the animating spirit of our nation. Inspired by them, together we can change our country's character. We can reverse the creeping acceptance of a narrative of decline. Reject pessimism and fatalism. Refuse limits on our aspirations. He doesn't say anything about misinformation, but he does mention it later. You know, people like me calling it out for what it is. We don't want any of that, no. To do that, he goes on, reverse creeping acceptance, etc. We need to have the imagination and confidence to do things differently and better. The vision to do today what is needed for tomorrow. In other words, we need to change the way our country works. That requires a change in mindset. You go in again, a change in mindset, right? Get used to the old, the new, out with the old, what you've always known, right? And like being warm, having enough income to go on holiday. Forget that. No. Okay. He goes on. What does this change in mindset, what does this mean in practice? It means a more innovative economy, stronger communities, safer streets, world-class education system, NHS built around patients, a society that truly values the family. Load of waffle. In all these areas and more, we must have the courage to change. To think bigger, strive for excellence, not give up when things get tough. And if we can do that, then we can really build a better future. In the coming months, I'll set out our plans in each of these areas. But so that's what he's going to be doing. Is that what his team's going to work on? That's it, is it? Is that what he's going to be? Jesus Christ, no wonder I'm depressed. But let me set the direction today. A better future is one where our economy is growing faster so that everybody, everywhere, across our union, has new opportunities for better paying, good jobs. And the change we need is to put innovation at the heart of everything we do. An ethos embodied by many of the fantastic businesses here at Plexel, a factory he was giving a speech from. Some people think innovation is about gadgets, a nice to have peripheral to growth compared to the traditional levers of tax and spend. That's exactly the mindset we need to change. What? Some people think innovation is about gadgets and geekery. A nice to have peripheral to growth compared to the traditional levers of tax and spend. I don't know. That's exactly the mindset we need to change. Let me tell you why innovation is so important. Over the last 50 years, it was responsible for around half of the UK's productivity increase. You don't say, Rishi. Wow, that's amazing. So innovation, yeah, like mobile phones, yeah. Electric windows in cars, double glazing. Fucking hell, I had no idea innovation. You know what? I used to pull my teeth out with a piece of string and a door being shut. And now, yeah, Jesus, it's like there's just dentists. It's amazing. Like, fucking hell. Flat screen tellies, Jesus, laces, a zip. I mean, in the old days, before Richie Sunak, there was no zips, and you had to do your clothes up with buttons. I mean, can you imagine it? Over the last 50 years, this innovation, it was responsible for half the country's productivity increase. New jobs are created by innovation. People's wages increased by innovation. The cost of goods and services reduced by innovation. The cost of goods and services reduced, so robots, basically. And I did hear that Amazon are laying off 18,000 people to cut costs, which is basically everything's being automised, right? And and this is interesting, and major challenges like energy security and net zero will be solved by innovation. I'll come back to that. The more we innovate, the more we grow. And the world is seeing an incredible wave of scientific and technological change. Yeah, digital ID, digital currencies, vaccine passports. net zero. What does that even mean, net zero? Does it mean that zero CO2? What, they're going to produce stuff on the moon? That's what it must mean, yeah. They're not going to have any more. I mean, the zero is zero carbon dioxide. So there's going to be zero carbon dioxide, a trace gas. I think it's 0.4%. Well, I need to check that. It's a tiny amount anyway in the atmosphere. They're not going to have any more of it. So plants and trees and things like that that need that to photosynthesize and react with sunlight, well, they can go whistle Dixie. Unless the zero CO2 is only in West Europe and parts of North America, around Bill Gates' house, in Seattle, Washington District, Columbia, California, of course, yeah. George Clooney's house, yeah. Meghan Markle's house, yeah. All those people with net zero, yeah. They'll just buy the shit in from somewhere else, and yeah. Because we know that it's only the little people that will actually make the change. Because the beautiful people, the chosen ones, and those who are very rich, will just carry on as always, although we're on a, like glass onion kind of pieced, where you're going to get somebody who has a big Tony Stark house on an island kind of people. They exist, right? This obviously, but anyway, they'll just carry on. So yeah, we're seeing this massive wave of scientific and technological change. So right now, the most powerful way to achieve higher growth is to make sure the UK is the most innovative economy in the world. Okay, then. That's why we are increasing public funding in R&D to 20 billion to enhance our world-leading strengths in AI, artificial intelligence, life sciences, drug research, Porton Down, all the rest of it, quantum, fintech, I'm not sure what that is, and green technology. Well, we all know what that is. So you'll note that that's public funding, right? So that's you, the taxpayer, paying 20 billion to enhance our world-leading strengths in artificial intelligence, life sciences, quantum tech, fintech. He just says quantum, but quantum mechanics means quantum technology, maybe. Nano, you could have said nanotech, right? Just writing this stuff like, it's just nasty, really. It really is. It's just fucking bollocks. It's talking about sacrifice, change, energy security, uncertainty, paying back debt. He's talking about that on one side of his mouth, and then he's saying creating jobs, potential, and get to net zero, and taxpayers funding all this malarkey in AI, right? Life sciences, which will then be taken over by private, right? It's the old transfer of Julian Assange, transfer of public money into private hands. So it's very sad to read all this crap, actually, dressed up as word salad, fucking nonsense, and clever, manipulative language, but overdone, very clumsy, really. I mean, it's just... He goes on, seizing the opportunities of Brexit to ensure our regulatory system is agile, right? So pro-innovation, like, yeah, let's have less law in the city, right? The City of London, there's another can of worms, I mean, if ever a place needed an overhaul and less cocaine taking, deal, money laundering, swindling, robbing, banking, crooks, if you want to crack down on crime and get some people paying their fair share of taxes, they could start their issue. But of course, no. Making sure entrepreneurial and fast growth companies get the finance they need to expand. Okay, so, right, seize the opportunity of Brexit. Ensure regulatory system is agile, i.e. you can bend the rules in the banking. Make sure entrepreneurial and fast-growing companies get the finance they need to expand. Okay, spread a culture of creative thinking and doing things differently across every part of the UK. If we're going to deliver this better future, people will have to work hard. But I believe good, well-paid jobs are about more than just financial security. Okay, they give people purpose, confidence, dignity, the chance to build a better life for themselves. But I also believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be rewarded. Yes, that's the idea of getting paid, right? And the more you do, the better you're paid. Not always the case. You could be some made-up job with more perks than the guy with the funny back that used to repair bikes in Pershore. Holiday, sick pays, terrific pension. You can be the world's biggest duffer and still not get the sack. I mean, it's the kind of thing that people in the private sector only dream of. As you're getting slated by your boss, who's a hard-working individual, busting his balls to make his business work. You've got to perform, and if you don't, you're on your back on the street, and you're fucking out. These comedians who work for the civil service, by and large, they never leave because they know they're on a good thing. Enfin bon, he's waffling about, a good day's pay deserves a good day's wages. Should be rewarded, which is why he goes on, as soon as we can, the government will reduce the burden of taxation on working people. Well, that's a bit of a bombshell there. Which is why, as soon as we can, the government will reduce the burden of taxation on working people. And it's staggering that at a time when businesses are crying out for workers, a quarter of our labour force is inactive. So he's saying 25% of the labour force is inactive. I don't know. So got long COVID, obviously. So our growth and lazy-itis. So our growth plan, and they don't want to work for peanuts either, Rishi. Why would they bother working when they lose all their benefits? You dummy. You're not really a dummy, but you just sound like one. So our growth plan will look at how we can support those who can to move back into work, including through the welfare system. Yeah, it sort of goes on. I mean, now all of this will make the country a beacon of science, technology and enterprise, and lift our productivity, raise our growth rate, create jobs in the decades to come. Of course, yeah. I mean, that's like me saying that table is flat. Like, how big's the table? How flat is it? Is it your table? Do I give a shit? Like, create jobs in decades to come. How many jobs? Like, never mind how many decades, but how many jobs? Of course, you could create, like, he's already created 20,000 jobs for the police. If you just create taxpayers, if you just create jobs in the state sector, well, you could do that every decade you like, mate. That's not a problem, is it? Creating jobs. You could create. I mean, or you're killing like painters and decorators and ordinary people. They can't drive. They can't go into towns. People can't get services. Honest people who do an honest day's work in the private sector. You, my political leader in England, are doing nothing for them. You're just fucking them up the backside. Create jobs for decades to come. Yeah, what? Box tickers in the department of fucking fuck knows what, right? Good jobs give people pride in their lives, repeating the same thing. But a better future also means reinforcing people's pride in the places they call home. Oh, and this is just, I love my community. Government can't create it. We can build it together. The state doesn't provide that, but it does give the foundations. So we're going to deliver on our promise, the promise to invest in the local area, boost growth, create jobs, reinvigorate our high streets and town centres. It spent the last 3 years, and even more before COVID, of course, destroying all that. Business rates were already high. So, but all the regeneration of the world, anything lets people feel safe in their communities. So we've got, by next spring, we'll have an extra 20,000, count them, police officers patrolling the streets, answering the call for help, catching criminals. On Twitter, we've got to stop violence against women and girls. Well, let's be frank. That means men, yes, you, men, taking responsibility for creating a culture, a society where women are safe. So, violence against men, well, we'll just assume that that's going to be taken care of as well. We've got to reduce reoffending. Yeah, because a small number of bankers keep reoffending. We've got to reduce those reoffending bankers. We've got to beat addiction, because a small number of bankers are crack addicts and cocaine addicts, and we've got to try and reduce that. Strong communities, spray graffiti, discard needles, nitrous oxide canisters in children's playgrounds, gang together cause violence and disruption, antisocial behaviour, makes life a misery for all. Yeah, of course, nobody likes gangs of feral youths outside their front door. That's playing a bit of a blinder there, Rishi. So this government will work tirelessly to crack down on antisocial behaviour, giving police forces, mayors and local authorities the tools they need. So what, you don't already have the tools you need? More crap. Just more laws, basically, to fuck you up. Wherever you live in the United Kingdom, you should be able to feel proud of your community. That's what we work together to achieve. So we'll create a better future by changing our economy and strengthening our communities. We also need greater social justice. And the way we achieve that is education. And he waffles on about how he was, this is personal for me. Every opportunity I've had in life is because I went to school. I went to school, so I was lucky. It's the single most important reason why I came into politics, to give every child the high standard of education. Okay, so he came into politics. It's the single most important reason why I came into politics, to give every single... That's... I'm not saying it's a lie, but it's kind of a strange thing to come out with. Thanks to the reforms we have introduced since 2010, and the hard work of so many excellent teachers who haven't taken early retirement and the fat salary, we've made incredible progress. Really? But with the right plan, the right commitment to excellence, I cannot see any reason why we can't rival the best education system in the world. To do that, we need to fix the damage of COVID, especially for our youngest pupils, the ones who are dumb and don't know how to speak and can't function, like, got no cognitive ability whatsoever for their age, because of what you insisted that they do, you and your scientific advisors. We're going to fix that balls up that we created. We're going to do that, yeah. And it'll require more investment, i.e. I want more of your tax dollars, tax pounds, which is why just weeks ago in the autumn statement we provided $2 billion of extra funding for schools to top up school pensions, obviously. But that's not the limit of our ambitions. We're not content with just catching up. Hang on, you're saying the best in the world, the greatest that we introduced since 2010, the fucking reforms of this and that, and it doesn't matter, just catching up. It's like 12 years ago, and you're not content with just catching up. One minute we're in the lead, the next minute it's a load of illiterate dunces who can't add up. He goes on. First, we need to support good teaching. And what were they doing before? And spread best practice with a plan to improve attainment in primary schools. Next, we need to stop seeing education as something that ends at 18, or that sees university as the only option. With more technical education, lifelong learning, apprenticeships. Nobody's going to argue with that. Everybody says that. It's like, duh. Why do nurses have to go to fucking university? It's just like, he just talks to people like that, complete idiots. And this is why it's so sad about all this. And one of the biggest changes in mindset, he goes on, we need in education today is to reimagine our approach to numeracy. Yeah, right. So, like, as Chancellor, I introduced Multiply. Okay, never heard of it, but it's a new program to give hundreds of thousands of adults the opportunity to get basic numerical skills they need. But we're one of the few countries not to require children to study some form of maths up to the age of 18. Right now, just half of 69 maths. He wants people to be able to add 2 and 5 and get 7, right? At the moment, a lot of them are getting 6, 8. Some of them don't even know the answer. Well, they can't even guess. Oh my God, yet in the world of Rishi Sunak, listen to what he says, yet in a world where data is everywhere and statistics underpin every job, letting our children out into that world without those skills is letting our children down. So we need to go further. They don't know how to use a mobile phone, they don't know how to connect to the internet, they don't know how to open a letter, they don't know how to write, so we're going to teach them all that basic stuff, right? They don't know the difference between a first class and a second class stamp. If you gave them a fax machine, according to Rishi Sunak, he's going to teach them how to use a fax machine. But we will work with the sector to move forward towards all children studying some form of maths to 18. Just imagine what greater numeracy would unlock for people, the skills to feel confident with your finances, to find the best mortgage deal. To imagine? Like somebody that have had extra maths lessons and they'll be able to get a mortgage. No, they're not going to get a mortgage deal. Some dunderhead who needs extra maths lessons, like he's going to go to a bank when he's 20. Yeah, I want to get that flat on the Manchester Canal there. It's £525,000. How much have you got as deposit? I've got about 37 quid. So yeah, no. Get the best mortgage rates, savings rates, the ability to do a job better and get paid more. Remember, he's talking to children. Remember, let's not forget that. And greater self-confidence to navigate a changing world. Well, indeed, let's not forget that. It's changing, right? It's going to involve sacrifice, change, out with the old, in with the new, right? Walking is active travel, right? That's, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Future for your grandchildren and grandchildren. It's mentioned it again, children, grandchildren. I feel a deep responsibility to pass on a health service that will be there for them. All right. Just as it was there for our parents and grandparents. When I talk about the NHS, I'm not just talking about a prized public service. I'm talking about my family's life. He goes, my dad was a doctor. I worked there for my mum as well. She was a pharmacy. I saw how things were important. And he says we've significantly increased funding for the health and social care. Recruited thousands. He's saying it here. He's recruited thousands more doctors and nurses. Really? Upgraded more hospitals with cutting-edge tech. But COVID has imposed massive new pressures and people are waiting too long for the care they need. We're fixing that, he says. He adds, but we need to do more. We've always got to do more, Rishi, right? Otherwise, what's your function in life? What's your purpose? If you can't improve things and do more and dream up new laws and regulations and fucking make us jump through hoops, what is the point of you? That is how bad you are. You bring nothing positive because all that is behind you. It's not that you're per se a bad person, but you are owned by those who do not stand for election. And so, by association, you become dirty. So, recruiting record numbers of doctors, healthcare professionals, they're still unable to deliver what they want. Patients aren't receiving the care they deserve. We will always protect the founding principles of the NHS, free at the point of use. I don't know. I've kind of got through most of this. It's sort of hard work. I don't know how interesting or useful or long this video will be, but I've started, so I'll finish, in the words of Magnus Magnusson. Yeah, because high quality healthcare should be there for you wherever you live, whatever. And the NHS works with professions to develop a workforce strategy. I've asked them to consider how we can best support doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, like pharmacists, to work more i.e., can you give more vaccines if we pay you a bit more? That's about the limit of, what lies behind his words, really. We all share the same objective when it comes to the NHS, to continue providing high quality, responsive healthcare for generations to come. And that's what we're going to deliver. Yeah. Our vision of change will revitalise every aspect of our lives, if you want it or not, And what are the aspects he mentions? Well, he's very narrow as usual. Better jobs, stronger communities, talking to children, remember, he's talking to you like an idiot. World-class education, an NHS built around patients. So the start of the sentence, the first part of the phrase, our vision of change will revitalise every aspect of our lives. Delve into what that is. Well, better jobs, stronger communities, world-class education, NHS built around patients. No mention of anything else. Net zero. No cash. Carbon credit allowance to do anything. None of that. But family is something politicians struggle to talk about because you can all too readily be pilloried for being out of touch or worse. What is he fucking talking about? Hostile to those who conform to an idea. Nobody is going to slag off a politician for loving a family and loving the family and recognising it for what it is. We live in a world today, he goes on, where family can and does take many forms. You get round families, you get square, triangular families. But whatever your family looks like, black, brown, yellow, red, pink, blue, it doesn't matter as long as the common bond is love. We shouldn't be shy about it. We cannot not talk, employ the double negative there, we cannot not talk about the thing that is most important in most of our life. What, we cannot talk about family? What is he saying here? Not when the evidence is clear that strong, supportive families make for more stable communities and happier individuals. No one has a problem with families, Richie. It's like everyone's fine and down with it. A bit like fed up with you saying when you were Chancellor of the Exchequer since 2019, you can't meet up as families. No, if your family die, if your dad dies, then sorry, but you can't go to the funeral. No, I mean that's yeah. Do you know what I mean? So this is just pain all the way through it, and rubbish, and crap. And my goal in delivering this video is to share with you what I feel, and hopefully other people will feel the same way and see it for what it is. And God Almighty, we need something and someone and somebody to pull us out of this fucking abyss of, I'm not going to say woke, because it's much, much worse than what woke's a phase, it's a fashion, it's like, yeah, we do need progress in certain areas, and everyone has the right to demand things get better and to express a sentiment. What we're looking at here is the seizure of our freedom and liberties and our history, the Magna Carta, the things that we stand for and appreciate and love, and that it's all swept under the carpet with a load of nonsense and jargon like net zero. What's that? We'll produce nothing, we'll own nothing, we'll be happy, we'll just get some stuff sent over from China. and we'll produce net zero because we've made a commitment to certain companies to supply X amount of, energy security. And I go back to, like, if you want energy, you've got tidal, you've got geothermic, there's shitloads of clean energy, but they're not interested because there's no fucking money in it. So from the get-go, these people just are out to ruin and make our lives worse. But they lie and dress it up in lots of talk about values, self-improvement, hard work, change, build, rebuild. So yeah, he's going on about family, and which is just a load of nonsense, because he's the one that, as I say, him and his ilk kind of like destroyed families with this pandemic, so maybe it's like a bit of cognitive dissonance coming out there, but he's talking about families, family matters, he says. Yeah, we need to support parents to encourage the demands of modern workplaces without weakening the irreplaceable bonds of family life. So we're going to roll out family hubs to offer parents the support they need to raise a child. Basically, he's talking about childcare. Because I believe deeply that family, not just government, can help us answer the profound questions we face as a country. When it comes to health, family cares for us when we're sick. So yeah, he's made 5 promises: halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting times, stop the boats. I'll just finish off reading the rest of it. There's not much to go, but I know this is just the start of what we need to do to build a better Britain together. As well as peace of mind today, this afternoon I've also set out a vision for a better future for our children and grandchildren. We're not going to get there overnight, or even in this parliament. Well, he wants another go, right? He wants to be re-voted into another five years to do. But this is the journey we are on. And despite all the challenges we face, all the anxieties people feel, I know we can get there. Others may talk about change. I will deliver it. I won't offer you false hope or quick fixes, but meaningful, lasting change. He's obsessed with change. Yeah, it's like, oh my God. So others may talk about change. I will deliver it. I won't offer you false hope or quick fixes, but meaningful, lasting change. Change from what to what exactly? He doesn't need all this blah blah blah. Change to what? Less crime, fewer ambulances waiting outside hospitals, kids that can add 5 + 2. Is that it? Is that the change that he's going to offer us? Is that it, right? I want people to feel something that they do not always feel today. A belief that public services work for them. Well, you've got some way to go there, because, people don't believe public services work for them. They just put up bike lanes and fucking cones and fuck things up for everybody, by and large. A belief that public services work for them. Talking about the health service, teaching service, fire service, police service. Okay, it used to work. Can it work again? A knowledge, he goes on, a knowledge that if you work hard in the good times, the state will be there for you during the bad. I hope that the world will be better for their children than it was for them. Well, that's kind of weird, because like when we were kids, the future was really great. And today children are kind of depressed because children aren't stupid. And you could spend a lot of time talking about that, the influence of the internet, smartphones, zoning out, whatever. But I think it's odd that you should say that. I hope that the world will be better for their children than it was for them. It's a funny way to put something. A sense of belonging in the place they call home. I guarantee that your priorities will be my priorities. I pledge that I will be honest about the challenges we face. Well, when are you going to start that then? And I will take the tough but necessary decisions to ensure our great country achieves its enormous potential. I'll only promise what I can deliver, and I'll deliver, and I will deliver what I promise. So, providing the video worked, and that was recorded, because if it hasn't recorded, I'm not going to record this again, because it's already gone on. I.e., I thought I pressed the button and I didn't. So yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed, and let's hope that all the good people out there that I watch and like and admire can join forces and assert some control and bring about responsibility to these jokers who basically are just treating us like chattel and children who know nothing and need correction and need saving. I think, these people want to save the planet, but they can't really conduct a proper thing for a pandemic. If a politician ran the country like he runs his own finances or loved his own family, we'd be a lot better off. But as it is. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Take it easy.